DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. Dre, what is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is inequality and inequity. These are features, not bugs, of the system. Before we get into this, I remind you all of two things. First of all, my daily motivation and Monday motivation messages, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day or your week, respectively. All you got to do to receive these is text me to be part of my text community. It's free to join. So send me a text at the number 305-384-6894. And as soon as we start sending those messages out again, you'll be getting them straight to your phone. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. Yes, there is a place called Work on Your Game University. No, the tuition is not nearly as high as what you are paying for college. And yes, the ROI is a lot higher than what you get no matter what you pay for college. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you get access to first of all, me as a trainer, me as your coach, all our best trainings, tactical stuff, mindset stuff, strategic stuff, implementation and accountability stuff when it comes to every aspect of your personal and professional development. Anything you ever heard me talk about here, if you want to learn more about how to do that and how to make it work and get serious about it, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. And you want direct access to me in the process, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Link is down below in the description. Getting into the topic here today, inequality and inequities. These are things that you hear people talk about often. People usually lament them as if they are negative things, bad things that should somehow be erased and eradicated from society. I'm here to tell you the opposite. I'm here to tell you that these are features, not bugs. Features meaning, and those of you not familiar with that language, feature means this is something that is a positive piece of what we're doing, not a negative thing that needs to be fixed or eliminated or destroyed. It's actually a positive thing that we're going to get more of. And this is a positive piece to why things are how they are. I'm going to explain why that is. So these days you hear a lot of people talking about things like fighting inequality or fighting inequities as if this is something that can actually be achieved in some make-believe utopian fairy tale society. So first of all, in case you didn't catch my drift in that sentence, it is impossible to create equality and equity amongst all human beings. That will never happen, and it can never happen. It is impossible. And today I'm going to explain to you why it's not possible. I'm also going to tell you why the fact that we are not all equal and we don't have equity is actually a good thing and not a bad thing to be eliminated. So let me, first of all, let's talk about inequality and inequity themselves, because these are two words that many of you may not know that they have slightly different definitions. So let me give you a definition of the word inequality, then we'll talk about inequity. So inequality says the condition of being unequal or an instance of being unequal. All right, that one is pretty straightforward. So we know that everybody is not always the same. Everyone's not always going to be equal. Inequity says, the definition says injustice or unfairness or lack of equity. Equity, what people mean when you hear diversity, equity, and inclusion. Equity means people getting to the same outcome. This is also laid out in Ibram Kendi's very popular but poorly logicked and poorly reasoned book called How to Be an Anti-Racist, that got a whole lot of scared white people believing that they need to be anti-racist. And if you're a scared white person who bought into the bullshit in that book, please go listen to my series where I alleviate you of that nonsensical way of thinking. That was in episode number 1788. I did a 4-part series on the trash that is that book, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Mr. Kendi. And I never said anything personally to Ibram Kendi, but when I looked him up on social media about a month ago, I found on X, also known as Twitter, I found out that he had me blocked. So maybe he knows about my series where I laid out the trash. That is his seminal work. That's the work that made him famous. So I'm sure he's proud of it, but it was some garbage. So anyway, now that you know the definitions of inequality and inequity, basically means they say injustice or fairness is a definition of inequity, which doesn't really make any sense. But okay, we're going to go with it. It's what's in the dictionary. I'm going to tell you why these are good things anyway. Point number one. Topic once again is inequalities and inequities are features, not bugs. Number one, as human beings have free will to make choices, there is no way we can end up with equal outcomes. That is impossible. As long as human beings have free will to make choices, equal outcomes is an impossibility. I have a sister who's less than 1 year older than me. We grew up in the same house, but the same parents. We went to the same schools up through the 8th grade. And even after that, we were still in the same house with the same parents. We ended up with completely different academic outcomes because my sister was a serious student who took her academics seriously. And I was an average student who did just enough to get by academically. My sister went on to go to all the best schools and the best colleges. I went to a good enough college, singular, and got a good enough GPA to get a good enough degree. And I stopped. She went to multiple colleges, graduated, got degrees and advanced degrees and all of that stuff. And she got the highest levels of everything you could get as an academic achiever. I'm sharing all that to share with you that we both had free will to make choices, and we did exactly that, and our results bear out this reality. Even though we had a lot of similarities, we ended up in completely different places because we made completely different sets of choices. And we came from the same house. So if two people from the exact same house with many of the same circumstances end up with completely disparate outcomes, how the hell do you think you can create equality or equity amongst people who are from completely different backgrounds? Well, that's a trick question, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot do it. It cannot happen. That's why it's impossible. So when I told you at the beginning that equality and equity are impossible, now I just explained to you why they are impossible, because people are different. People make choices. If you gave every human on the planet exactly $1 million in cash and put it in everybody's bank account, even if you took all the money that everybody has, let's say the government just took everybody's money. All right, they collude with the banks and they take every dollar that everyone has access to and they replace all that with $1 million in every single human being's bank account starting today. Every single one of us has exactly $1 million in our account. Nobody has more, nobody has less. Within a few years, broke people are going to be broke again and rich people will be rich again. How is this? Because of the decisions that people make. You can try to manufacture equality or manufacture equity, whichever words you want to use. People throw these definitions around in different ways. You can try to manufacture this all you want. It will not last, because as soon as you let human beings free to be human and make choices, people are going to do different things and they're going to get different outcomes. There is no way you can manufacture equality and keep it that way. Now, you can force everybody to start at the same spot, but you cannot force everybody to finish at the same spot, because everybody is different. And when we start making our own choices, we get different outcomes. All right, there's no way around it. There's nothing you can do about it. Does anybody have a question, comment, criticism at this point? There isn't any. All right, this is just the reality. You cannot manufacture this. Anybody preaching or campaigning to you, pay attention, that they can or that you can, or that they're even going to try, they are lying to you and they're selling you a pack of magic beans. All right, they're lying to you. It can't happen and it won't happen. It is impossible. What I just explained, if anybody has a pushback to that, then you tell me what it is. I don't think you have one, because there isn't any. So anytime you hear a politician or some activist or some author trying to tell you that they can create some type of system that's going to lead to equity or equality amongst everybody, you already know they're giving you some bullshit. Whatever they're about to say is about to be some bullshit. It may be very well worded bullshit, but it is still bullshit. It may be emotionally charged and very well worded, which is what you find in the typical race hustler these days. They are emotionally charged and they are very good at articulating their bullshit. Doesn't mean it's not bullshit. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is inequality and inequity are features, not bugs. Number 2. As free will human beings procreate, the inequality gaps can and naturally will grow wider. Now, why is this? Let's think about it. As I just told you, if you give everybody on the planet the same amount of something, you give everybody the same opportunity, the same position, the same money, the same education, at some point, when you stop controlling them and let them free to do whatever they want to do, then the gaps will start to show immediately, because people who are disciplined, they're going to start having a certain outcome. People who are not disciplined are going to have a different outcome. And you remember the Dave Chappelle show from back in the day. There was a skit that Dave Chappelle did where he said it was a skit that if the government finally gave reparations to all Black Americans, so every Black American just got all this money. And it's a very funny skit. You can probably find this on YouTube somewhere. It's funny. And if reparations were given to Black Americans, this is something that I've talked about in the past. If they did this, let's say they cut a check to every Black American for, name a number, $5 million a piece. Everybody got a check for $5 million. All right, the people who were broke before that check will be broke again within 5 years. And the people who had money before that check will have all the money again within 5 years. There's more of it because they were able to collect money from those Black people who got the $5 million check. Why? Because of the decisions that people make. If you gave everybody access to the nicest gym in the world, a Lifetime Fitness or an Equinox for free, they have a free membership to the gym. People who are fat and out of shape right now are still going to be fat and out of shape 5 years from now. And the people who are in great shape right now are still going to be in great shape 5 years from now. Why? Because the gym wasn't the thing that made the difference. What made the difference is the discipline of the person. See, people think, actually, a lot of people don't think this, but they get fooled into believing this bullshit that somehow it can be manufactured that everything can be equal and everybody can get on the same playing field, the same level playing field. That will never, ever, ever happen in humanity. As long as humans have the ability to think for themselves, it won't happen. Now, if AI takes over society, then the robots can all be equal, but human beings, never. Can't happen. So as I was saying here on point number 2, as human beings procreate, the inequality gaps between them will just get wider. And people start making their own decisions. They make their own choices. They choose their own actions. And then the inequalities grow. They show, they expand, they exacerbate. There's nothing you can do to stop this growth from happening. So I'll give you another example. In my high school senior yearbook, I remember that there was a section in there called like, where have they gone or remember them? It was something like that. And it featured a bunch of photos of students who had started in our class in the 9th grade, but by the time we graduated in the 12th grade, they were no longer students at our school. These are students who had either transferred, flunked out, or otherwise just disappeared from school. We don't know what happened to them. So my question is, how did that happen? How did some students start with us in 9th grade, not make it to 12th grade, even though we all were at the same school, the same teachers, same locker rooms, same lunch, same everything, same textbooks? How did some students graduate and some students didn't? How's that possible? We all had the same stuff. The reason why is because human beings get to make their own choices. This cannot and will not ever be changed. Let me give you another example, because I was talking about this morning. I was doing a live stream. I do live streams usually, as of this recording, on weekdays, Monday through Friday at 8 o'clock. I do live streams on basically any social app that allows live streaming. So Rumble, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X. I do live streams. So I was doing a live stream this morning, and I mentioned someone like the conversation was around the living wage and why no one deserves a living wage. And I've done a whole episode on that. If you haven't heard me talk about it, by the way, you can hear that in episode number 2314. And I mentioned how Jeff Bezos, there's a book about him called The Everything Store that lays out how Amazon started. If you haven't read that book, you should read it if you're an Amazon customer or owner. And I mentioned how Jeff Bezos started his business with just him, and he had to build it up and make it into something. And because he took on the risk of doing so, he deserves to make more money than the maintenance man who is working at Amazon now, or somebody working in the factory filling package envelopes up. And someone said, well, Jeff Bezos started his company with a $250,000 loan from his parents. Now, I do remember in the book that he did get a loan from his parents. I don't know how much it was, but let's just assume that this person was correct and he took a loan for $250,000. That's how he started Amazon. So some people hear that and they say, well, Dre, then you can mentally dismiss what Jeff Bezos did because he got a loan for $250,000. And since you don't have access to a loan for $250,000, maybe that's why you haven't started the next Amazon. I say bullshit. Let me tell you why I'm saying bullshit. I'm saying bullshit for several reasons. First of all, for every one Jeff Bezos who gets a loan for $250K and starts a business and becomes successful, you know how many people get that same amount of money or close to it and fail? And whoever gave them the money gets none of it back. You know how many? A whole lot. More than you can count. And more than in the letters in Jeff Bezos' name have that happen. So not everybody who gets money to start a business succeeds in starting a business. You only hear about the ones who succeed, and then people come up with these reasons in their head, the story in their head. Well, I can dismiss that because they got money. I ain't getting no money to start my business, so that's the reason why I'm failing. Bullshit. Because a bunch of people got money and failed anyway. And a bunch of people didn't get money and they succeeded. You don't know any stories of someone who started a business with no money and they still became successful? I do. So what's your excuse? So that's one reason why it's bullshit. Another reason is, if we extend this and take it even further, Jeff Bezos, all right, let's say his parents gave him $250,000 to start a business. Now you, look at your parents. Your parents did not have $250,000 to give you to start your business. Now let me ask you a further question. Here's the next question. If and when you have kids, will you be in a position when they want to start a business to give them $250,000? If the answer is no, then you can't wag your finger or shake your head or dismiss Jeff Bezos, because his parents were in a position to give him $250,000. So if your parents weren't in a position to give it to you, then that means you shouldn't make that same mistake with your kids, and you should be in a position to give it to them. And if you ain't, then you need to look at yourself and not look at him. You see, so whatever way you want to take this, we always bring it back to the person in the mirror. This is what we do here at Work on Your Game. So if you started your business and nobody gave you any money, all right, fine, I understand. Nobody gave me money when I started my business either. But I'll tell you this, if my child wants to start a business, I'm gonna be in a position to give them money. And if you aren't putting yourself in a position to give your kids money, if and when they want to start a business, then you need to be looking at yourself and not looking at Jeff Bezos or anybody else or whatever it is you don't have, whatever story you want to tell yourself. Because human choice still exists. So I would never look at a person, and I used to think that way, like, oh, well, this person had money, so no wonder they got to the position that they got to. Well, okay, if you weren't given money to start, then make sure your kids don't have the same story you had. Simple as that. If you weren't given money to start, make sure your kids don't tell the same story that you told, because you had 30, 40, 50 years to set them up in a way that your parents didn't set you up. So why would you perpetuate the mistake? If you think having money from your parents is a head start, then all right, give your kids a head start. Since you didn't have one, you're just going to give them the same problem you had? Why would you do that? So again, you cannot change the fact that human beings make choices, and you are a human being. You can't go back to the beginning of your career, but your kids didn't even start theirs yet, so set them up. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is inequalities and inequities are features, not bugs. Number 3, life stopped being fair when you graduated from kindergarten. Newsflash. Life stopped being fair when you graduated from kindergarten. You were what, age 5, 6? Life hasn't been fair ever since. So if you're over the age of 5 or 6, and if you're not over the age of 5 or 6, you shouldn't be listening to this. All right, your job is to get the unfairness working in your favor. Your job is to get the unfairness working in your favor. It's not to make sure that everything's fair. Fairness is not an aim to be chased after. You don't want things to be fair in life, because that's impossible. You want things to be unfair, and you just want to find a place where the unfairness works in your favor and not against you. I played basketball for a living. One of the main reasons that I played basketball for a living, because I'm 6 feet 4 inches tall. Had I been 5'8", like my father, I probably wouldn't have become a basketball player. So the unfairness of height being a determining factor in basketball worked in my favor. That's why I decided to become a basketball player. All right, that's part of the game. All right, so that's what I mean when I say the unfairness. You need to figure out where in life are the scales tilted in your favor, and you need to press even harder on those scales so you can take advantage of that advantage that you have, that quote unquote unfair advantage that you have. Take advantage of it. You don't want things to be fair in life. It's impossible, first of all, to manufacture fairness. So instead, it's not even that you want to make things unfair. You just want to find the unfairness, because it already exists. There's somewhere in life where things are unfair, and they are unfair in your favor, and you need to take advantage of that unfairness and exploit it so that you can create success for yourself. And every other person on the planet, they have an area in which the unfairness works for them as well. It might be different from yours. They need to do the same thing I just told you to do. Everybody needs to do this. And if everybody did this, then everyone could create more success for themselves. And we have a much better society. But instead, what we get is a whole bunch of whiners and complainers, people bitching about what they don't have, about what everybody else has, not paying attention to their own situation and how they can find unfairness to work in their favor. And no wonder you're losing, because you're not focused on how do you win. You're focused on why am I losing? Okay, you focus on anything, you're going to get more of it. So you focus on the fact that you're losing, your brain's going to keep giving you reasons and situations that perpetuate the idea of why you're losing. And instead, you start focusing on winning, guess what's going to happen? You fill in that blank. So I'm strongly suggesting that you stop wasting your time trying to make fairness happen. Instead, expect unfairness and look for ways, manufacturing them if necessary, to get unfairness working for you. That's what you need to do. Do not think that this means you are taking advantage of other people. Nothing I said here today is about taking advantage of anyone. Everyone has some unfairness advantages that they could potentially take advantage of, but most people are not doing it because, again, you're focused on the wrong things. You're allowing hustlers and politicians to tell you that you should expect the fairness to be manufactured by them, and they're going to do it. Just vote for me, and I'll get things fair in on your behalf and in your favor. That's bullshit. No, they're not. They're not going to do anything. By getting your vote, they're tilting the unfairness towards their side by using you to do it. You don't even realize that. And I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. Everyone has some unfairness they can take advantage of. In your business of life, you are the CEO of You Incorporated. It is your responsibility to find this unfairness. And if you choose to not look for it or take it on, it is your fault. It is your responsibility. And if other people don't want to take advantage of this, they don't want to do what I'm telling, it is not your fault and it's not your responsibility what happens with or for other people. That is their job. Your job is to mind your damn business. That's it. Let's recap today's class, which is inequalities and inequities are a feature, not a bug of life. Point number one, as humans have free will to make choices, there is no way we can all end up with equal outcomes. That is impossible. Perish the thought if you thought that was true. Point number two, as free will humans procreate, the gaps widen. So generation by generation, the same habits that your parents had, you picked up. The same habits you got, your kids are going to pick up. Are they good habits or bad habits? Are they putting you further ahead of everybody else? Or are they taking you further behind? Remember that there is no neutral in the universe. You're either getting better or worse, building or destroying. Point number three, life stopped being fair when you graduated from kindergarten. Your job is to find the unfairness that works for you and exacerbate that unfairness, perpetuate that unfairness by pressing your thumb on the scale that works in your favor. This is your job. This is your responsibility. It is everybody's job and responsibility. And if you choose not to accept it, that's on you. And if someone else chooses not to accept it, that is on them. That's it, folks. Text me so you're in my community. My number's down below in the description. Also, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to learn how to get the unfairness working in your favor. You want to find the unfairness and start pressing on it strategically and systematically to start making it work for you, having the right mindset and the right actions and implementations to make it work for your personal and professional life. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all